I don't think it matters whether any particular individual is a mum or dad, but I think what does matter is that there are enough people around the decision-making table at the top of powerful organisations who are parents. Just like we say there should be enough women around the table, there should be enough ethnic minorities around the table, enough people with disabilities around the table. I do think being a parent also gives you a different point of view. And I think if you look beyond the outrage, of course there's outrage, these comments have resurfaced and perhaps some of the language he used was more inflammatory than it needed to be. But I think it helps to look, what was he actually saying and what was he not saying? And he wasn't saying, I don't think, that individual leaders like Kamala Harris should not be childless. You shouldn't have childless people. I think what he was saying was that the balance now at the top of big political organisations and corporate organisations, because he mentioned those two, that there were too many people, in his words, who weren't parents compared to those who are. And now some people might find that offensive, of course, but I think it is worth looking at whether or not there is a point. And certainly I think in British politics, it feels like we have become... there are too many decisions that are made that don't take children into account. And I think we've become quite an anti-child, anti-family society.
Miriam, it wasn't that long ago we had Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister. They had to lay on special deliveries on Father's Day for him.
Again, let's think, what are we not saying? We're not saying that every parent is a perfect politician. That's not what anybody's saying. It's just like saying we should have more women in Parliament. Does that mean Liz Truss was a good Prime Minister? They are separate things, aren't they? So what we're saying is, are there enough people around the table who are parents? And there's a current debate that I think illustrates this really well, and that's the debate about smartphones and social media. So you'll find that parents of teenage children are desperate about this. They are really frightened about what their children are seeing on social media. They are desperately worried about their children's addiction, about grooming, about sexual abuse. But sometimes if you speak to people who don't have teenagers or whose children are much older, they say, well, this is just about parenting. You should parent your children better. We shouldn't be cracking down on social media. That's anti-libertarian. Now, I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong, and of course their point of view is valid. But if you don't have people who are experiencing what childhood and adolescence is like right now at the top table, you'll miss a very, very important point of view that has a crucial impact on our future. And I think if you look beyond the outrage of how people have reacted to what he said, there is a kernel of truth in there that I think is worth listening to. Now, of course, in the past, this didn't matter because almost everybody had children by the age of 30. And so anybody in a position of power or authority, the vast majority of those people would have had children. That's just how culture was. Fast forward to now, most women and more than most men don't have children by the age of 30. So the number
of parents... Is that a actual stat?
For the first time in 2022, the average woman got to 30 without having a child. It's the first time ever.
Right, okay.
So the balance of people at the top of our organisations has changed, and of course that will change people's perspective. So I wouldn't have used the same language as JD Vance, but I think we have to get over our outrage and think about whether he does have a point.